As men move into their 60s and beyond, it's important to recognize that the body's internal chemistry begins to shift. One of the most critical changes is the decline in testosterone, the primary male sex hormone, responsible not just for reproductive health, but also for energy levels, muscle maintenance, cognitive sharpness, and emotional resilience. While some level of hormonal decline is a natural part of aging, research from leading endocrinology journals shows that lifestyle and nutrition can either accelerate or stabilize this process. That means what you eat, how you sleep, and how you move each day play a far greater role than most people realize. Testosterone production is regulated by a complex feedback loop known as the hypothalamic-pituitary-gonadal axis. This system involves communication between the brain, specifically the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, and the testes. When this axis is functioning well, signals are sent in a tightly regulated rhythm, telling the body when to produce more testosterone. But with age, inflammation, poor sleep, and especially poor diet, this rhythm can become disrupted. That's when the cascade of low energy, reduced muscle mass, belly fat, brain fog, and low mood begins to creep in. Many men assume that low testosterone is just part of getting older, but science now tells us that this decline can be dramatically influenced by environmental inputs, and diet is one of the most powerful of those. When certain compounds in food begin to interfere with testosterone synthesis, binding, or conversion, the body shifts toward a hormonal profile that favors fatigue, lower performance, and in some cases, even metabolic disorders. This is not just about libido or muscle, it's about biological vitality. One of the major issues facing men over 60 is that they often unknowingly consume foods that actively disrupt testosterone production. And while the media focuses on sugar and alcohol, both valid concerns, far less attention is given to specific vegetables that, when consumed too often or prepared improperly, can negatively affect hormones. These are vegetables that contain phytoestrogens, goitrogens, and anti-nutrients, compounds that, although naturally occurring, can lead to lower testosterone when eaten in excess or without proper preparation. Now, this doesn't mean men should stop eating vegetables altogether. On the contrary, fiber, antioxidants, and micronutrients are all essential. But the key lies in knowing which vegetables to moderate and how they interact with aging male biology. For example, phytoestrogens are plant-based compounds that mimic the effects of estrogen in the body. They're found in high quantities in soy-based sprouts and unfermented soy products. In small amounts, these may not pose a threat, but when consumed regularly, they can tip the balance of estrogen to testosterone in a direction that's less than ideal, especially for older men who are already dealing with hormonal decline. Another concern is goitrogens, found in vegetables like raw kale, cabbage, and broccoli. These compounds can interfere with thyroid hormone production. Why is this important? Because your thyroid regulates metabolism, energy output, and temperature control, all of which are closely tied to testosterone signaling. A sluggish thyroid means sluggish testosterone. Cooking these vegetables properly can neutralize most of the goitrogenic compounds, but unfortunately, many people consume them raw in smoothies or salads, thinking they're doing something healthy, when in fact, they may be creating a hormonal bottleneck. And finally, we have anti-nutrients like oxalates and phytates, which bind to minerals such as zinc and magnesium, two of the most essential cofactors for testosterone production. Without these minerals, the testes can't effectively synthesize testosterone, even if the brain is sending the right signals. This mineral blockade leads to a frustrating situation where the body wants to produce testosterone but doesn't have the raw materials to do it. So what does this mean for the average man over 60? It means that maintaining optimal testosterone levels isn't just about taking supplements or hitting the gym. It starts at the dinner table, and specifically, it starts by understanding which foods support your hormonal health and which foods, even some that are marketed as healthy, might actually be holding you back. This brings us to the heart of today's topic: the 3 specific vegetables you should avoid or reduce if you're over 60 and want to protect your testosterone naturally. Continuing from where we left off, let's now dive into the specific vegetables that can negatively impact testosterone levels in men over 60 and why they can be problematic when consumed regularly or in certain forms. Now, it's important to clarify something right away. Vegetables are generally good. They're packed with fiber, antioxidants, and vital micronutrients that support cellular health and reduce inflammation. But not all vegetables are created equal when it comes to hormonal health, especially for aging men. Certain vegetables contain compounds that interfere with the endocrine system, which governs the production and regulation of hormones like testosterone. If your goal is to maintain vitality, energy, and masculinity as you age, understanding these foods is critical. Let's start with the first offender: soy sprouts and other unfermented soy-based vegetables. These are often seen in health-focused diets and vegetarian meals, but they contain phytoestrogens, naturally occurring plant compounds that mimic estrogen in the body. When consumed occasionally, they may not have a significant impact. But when these foods become a regular part of your diet, especially in large quantities, they can disrupt your hormonal balance. Studies have shown that phytoestrogens can bind to estrogen receptors in the body and block or alter normal hormonal signaling, leading to a decrease in free testosterone levels. This effect is more pronounced in aging men whose testosterone is already declining due to natural causes. The result is often reduced energy, lowered libido, loss of muscle mass, and mood instability, symptoms many dismiss as simply getting older, but that are deeply rooted in hormonal shifts. The second vegetable group to be cautious about includes cruciferous vegetables like kale and spinach, especially when consumed raw and in large amounts. These vegetables are often featured in green smoothies or detox plans. While they are rich in vitamins and minerals, they also contain oxalates, which are anti-nutrients that can bind to important minerals such as zinc, calcium, and magnesium. Zinc is especially important here. It plays a central role in testosterone synthesis and is one of the few minerals directly involved in the enzymatic pathways that convert cholesterol into testosterone. When oxalates bind to zinc in your gut, your body absorbs less of it, which can lower testosterone production over time. Additionally, raw kale contains goitrogens, compounds that suppress thyroid function by interfering with iodine uptake. Since thyroid hormones help regulate metabolism and energy, both of which support testosterone production, this interference can cause a ripple effect that weakens hormonal health overall. Cooking these vegetables lightly can reduce their goitrogenic and oxalate content, but most people consume them raw in juices and salads, thinking it's the healthiest way, without realizing the long-term hormonal consequences. The third vegetable to watch out for is cabbage, especially raw cabbage, and large servings of coleslaw, which is a common side in many meals. Like kale and broccoli, cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable, and again, it contains goitrogens and a class of phytonutrients known as indole-3-carbinol, which may be beneficial in some contexts, but can also affect the delicate balance of estrogen and testosterone. In aging men, this balance is already sensitive. The body is producing less testosterone, and estrogen levels tend to stay the same or even rise slightly. So anything that adds more estrogenic signaling or disrupts androgen metabolism can accelerate the decline in male hormone function. When consumed frequently, cabbage can lead to bloating, decreased metabolic rate, and further suppression of thyroid activity, another indirect blow to testosterone. What's important here isn't fear, it's awareness. These vegetables are not inherently bad, but for men over 60, whose bodies are in a different hormonal phase, moderation and preparation methods become crucial. You don't need to eliminate them completely, but you do need to become intentional. Instead of raw kale smoothies every morning, consider lightly steamed greens paired with testosterone-friendly fats like olive oil or avocado. Instead of soy-based salads, opt for protein sources that don't carry the same phytoestrogenic load. When testosterone declines, everything from motivation and confidence to energy and physical strength is affected, and while there are many lifestyle factors involved, nutrition is often the silent driver behind the scenes. By understanding which foods interfere with optimal hormone levels and adjusting your habits accordingly, you give your body the chance to reclaim its natural vitality. In the next section, we'll explore how exactly these foods impact hormone production and what's happening biologically when testosterone is suppressed. To truly understand how these specific vegetables impact testosterone, we need to look at what's happening inside the body, the biochemical processes and hormone interactions that are quietly shaping how we feel, think, and perform. Testosterone isn't just a single switch you can turn on or off. It's part of a complex web of signaling pathways, conversions, and balances, and certain foods, especially as we age, can disrupt these systems in ways that are easy to overlook but hard to reverse if left unchecked. Let's start with the concept of SHBG, or sex hormone binding globulin. This is a protein that binds to testosterone in the bloodstream and makes it unavailable for the body to use. Even if your total testosterone levels appear normal on a blood test, high SHBG can mean that very little of that testosterone is actually free and bioavailable, the kind your cells can use to build muscle, increase energy, support focus, and maintain a strong mood. Now here's where diet comes in. Some vegetables, especially those rich in phytoestrogens or anti-nutrients, can cause an increase in SHBG. When your diet is consistently high in these compounds, especially in the context of aging when testosterone is already declining, SHBG levels can rise, effectively locking away your testosterone and leaving you with symptoms of low T even when your labs seem okay. This creates confusion for many men. They feel tired, unmotivated, foggy, but they don't know why. The hidden culprit may be dietary inputs that are quietly raising SHBG and robbing them of their vitality. Another critical mechanism is how these foods impact the thyroid, which is directly tied to testosterone production. As we mentioned earlier, goitrogens found in raw kale, cabbage, and similar cruciferous vegetables suppress the thyroid by blocking iodine absorption. The thyroid gland needs iodine to make its hormones, and when those hormones drop, the body shifts into a slower metabolic state. That means reduced energy, slower recovery, and a signal to the brain that it's not the right time to be producing more testosterone. Why? Because from an evolutionary standpoint, low thyroid function tells your body that it's under stress, possibly starving or in danger, and in that state, it prioritizes survival over reproduction or strength. That's a key insight. When your thyroid is underperforming due to diet, your testosterone often follows. We also have to consider the impact of inflammation and oxidative stress, which increase naturally as we age but can be worsened by consuming high amounts of certain vegetables without balance. Some of the anti-nutrients and plant defense compounds in these vegetables can trigger low-grade inflammation, especially in the gut. The gut is where we absorb most of the nutrients required for testosterone production: zinc, magnesium, healthy fats, amino acids. But when the gut lining is irritated or inflamed, absorption becomes compromised. This means even if you're eating the right nutrients elsewhere, your body may not be taking them in. Chronic inflammation also increases cortisol levels, and cortisol, the stress hormone, is a known antagonist to testosterone. When cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. This hormonal seesaw is part of the body's attempt to adapt to stress, but when it becomes chronic, due to diet, poor sleep, or constant stimulation, it suppresses testosterone and leaves men feeling drained and disconnected from their physical power. There's also the role of the liver to consider. This is the organ that helps metabolize and detoxify excess hormones. Some vegetables, especially when eaten raw in large quantities, contain compounds that can overload liver detox pathways or require extra metabolic energy to process. A sluggish liver can't efficiently clear out used-up estrogen or manage hormonal balance, and this can result in a relative rise in estrogenic activity and further suppression of testosterone. It's another reason why the more greens is always better. Philosophy doesn't always hold true for men in their 60s. The body's systems aren't as forgiving at this stage, and overconsumption, especially without balance or proper cooking, can backfire. The good news is, once you're aware of how these processes work, you can start making better choices. Choosing vegetables that support rather than sabotage testosterone production, preparing them in a way that neutralizes their negative effects, and combining them with nutrient-rich, hormone-supportive foods can make a powerful difference. The body is adaptive. It wants to recover and rebalance, but it needs the right conditions to do so. Next, we'll look at how to replace these testosterone-lowering vegetables with foods that support strength, energy, and hormonal longevity. Now that we've covered the science behind testosterone decline and the specific vegetables that can interfere with hormonal balance, the natural question becomes, what should men over 60 eat instead? How can we support testosterone production, not just avoid the things that harm it? The answer lies in understanding how food functions not only as fuel, but as information. Each meal either signals your body to thrive or to slow down. And for men past the age of 60, that signaling becomes even more crucial. At this stage in life, you're no longer dealing with the hormone levels of your 20s or 30s. You're working with a system that's become more sensitive to stress, more reactive to inflammation, and more dependent on quality inputs to maintain function. That's why nutrition becomes the foundation of hormonal longevity. One of the best categories of foods for supporting testosterone is healthy fats, specifically monounsaturated and saturated fats from natural sources. Hormones like testosterone are made from cholesterol. That's not a bad word. It's a raw material your body needs to produce steroid hormones. Foods like avocados, whole eggs, extra virgin olive oil, grass-fed butter, and fatty fish like salmon or sardines provide not just cholesterol, but also important fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, which all play supportive roles in testosterone synthesis and absorption. Contrary to outdated nutritional myths, eating the right fats does not raise harmful cholesterol levels. In fact, when balanced with fiber and antioxidants, these fats help stabilize hormones, reduce inflammation, and promote insulin sensitivity, all of which are critical for testosterone regulation. Next, we need to look at minerals, especially zinc, magnesium, and selenium. These are the cofactors for testosterone production, meaning your body literally cannot create or convert testosterone without them. Zinc, in particular, is essential because it helps regulate the enzymes involved in converting cholesterol into testosterone, and it also plays a role in blocking the aromatization process, the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. Some of the best natural sources of zinc include pumpkin seeds, grass-fed beef, oysters, and lentils soaked or sprouted to reduce anti-nutrients. Magnesium supports sleep quality, reduces inflammation, and improves free testosterone levels, while selenium supports thyroid health, which we've already established is closely tied to testosterone production. Brazil nuts, in moderation, are a potent selenium source. Equally important is protein, but not just any protein. We're talking about high-quality, bioavailable protein from clean sources that support muscle maintenance and metabolic function. As men age, maintaining lean muscle mass becomes harder, and that's largely due to declining testosterone. Eating enough protein from pasture-raised meats, eggs, and wild-caught fish not only helps preserve muscle, but also sends the body the signal that it's safe, nourished, and capable of strength, all of which reinforces healthy hormone output. Plant proteins can also be included, but they should be paired with foods that counterbalance their phytoestrogenic or anti-nutrient content. Think soaked quinoa, sprouted legumes, and cooked vegetables with olive oil or garlic to enhance absorption and minimize hormonal disruption. Another powerful tool often overlooked is cruciferous vegetables when properly prepared. Vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts when steamed or lightly cooked, can help the liver detoxify excess estrogen and balance hormonal ratios. The key here is preparation. Cooking neutralizes most of the goitrogens and anti-nutrients we discussed earlier. When these vegetables are steamed, not raw, they offer compounds like indole 3-carbinol and DIM, which help regulate estrogen metabolism, critical for men who want to avoid estrogen dominance as they age. And of course, we can't ignore lifestyle habits that amplify the effects of these testosterone-supporting foods. Getting early morning sunlight helps regulate the circadian rhythm and promotes natural testosterone pulses in the morning. Strength training, even just bodyweight movements a few times a week, tells the body that testosterone is still needed and valuable. Sleep, particularly deep REM sleep, is when testosterone is produced, so optimizing your sleep environment with magnesium-rich foods and low blue light exposure can make a huge difference. Finally, hydration plays an often underestimated role. Dehydration increases cortisol and decreases testosterone. Simply drinking enough mineral-rich water throughout the day, perhaps with a pinch of sea salt and lemon, supports the adrenal glands and the balance between stress and sex hormones. In the end, you don't need exotic supplements or expensive biohacking gadgets to support testosterone over 60. You need real food, eaten with intention, and a few simple lifestyle habits that tell your body it's still strong, still capable, and still rising.